Shunyan rejected the destined heroine and chose the future Demoness. That single decision tore him away from the novel's doomed ending. The court expected every important man to eventually chase Gu Ruyi. Instead, Shunyan requested an imperial marriage to Yelian. He remembered Yelian becoming a demoness only after losing everything. Her pale blue eyes concealed power capable of divinity or disaster. The emperor approved the marriage before the ministers could interfere. From that instant, Yelian's tragic future began breaking apart. The Hall of Supreme Harmony had been ready to dismiss another ordinary morning court. Emperor Shunwei sat above hundreds of officials, his presence forcing every head lower. Shunyan stepped forward in black robes and calmly asked permission to marry General Ye Tian's granddaughter. Silence struck the hall harder than any military command. Yelian had spent her life branded unlucky because no ordinary person possessed eyes like hers. Some officials immediately suspected Shunyan wanted the Ye family's enormous influence over the Northern Army. Others wondered whether 5 missing years had damaged the returned prince's judgment. General Ye Tian woke from his quiet doze the moment anyone whispered against his granddaughter. The veteran's glare silenced men who had survived entire campaigns. Shunyan never changed his request, because political gossip mattered less than the future he remembered. Emperor Shunwei studied his 6th son for only a moment. Then the ruler granted the marriage without allowing a single objection. The chief eunuch received orders to prepare the decree immediately. Ministers stared upward, stunned that a supposedly cursed woman had entered the royal family so easily. Shunyan had prepared several arguments, but his father's sudden approval made every speech useless. General Ye Tian watched him leave with gratitude hidden behind a soldier's controlled expression. For everyone else, the request looked reckless, romantic, or politically ambitious. For Shunyan, it was the first strike against a story designed to destroy them both. In his previous life, he had been a modern man who fell asleep and awakened inside a royal womb. That rebirth made him the 6th son of Great Qin's emperor. Luxury arrived immediately, but so did the danger of being born among competing princes. A powerless royal could be purged whenever another brother secured the throne. Shunyan originally considered becoming a prodigy and fighting openly for succession. His second plan used modern knowledge to build wealth while hiding his real strength. The safest plan created businesses, secret guards, and an escape route beyond the empire. Everything changed when familiar names revealed that this world came from a cultivation novel. Shunyan was supposed to become one of several male leads orbiting the same heroine. Gu Ruyi, the long-lost daughter of a marquis, possessed beauty that bent every important man toward her. The original story treated that obsession like romance instead of collective madness. Yelian occupied the opposite role, serving as the feared villainess everyone expected to hate. Her pale blue eyes had inspired rumors of demons since the day she was born. Shunyan alone had praised those eyes when they met as children. That tiny kindness became the first warmth Yelian had ever received from someone outside her family. She carried the memory for years while he disappeared into the martial world. The original Shunyan eventually returned, met Gu Ruyi, and abandoned every promise made to Yelian. Isolation and jealousy then pushed the lonely girl toward the demon sect. Her power awakened through grief until she threatened the entire dynasty. At the conclusion, the original Shunyan killed Yelian with his own sword. Gu Ruyi survived beside multiple devoted men and eventually became an empress. Shunyan considered that ending ridiculous even before waking inside it. Now that his life depended on the plot, he had no intention of repeating its cruelty. Any brother could claim the role of Gu Ruyi's heroic admirer. Shunyan would marry the woman who had loved him before. Status, power, or destiny mattered. His choice also protected an ability the novel had deliberately twisted into evil. Yelian's eyes were not a curse, but a rare inheritance appearing only once across many generations. They could develop towards sacred power or descend into demonic destruction. The Withered Northern Elder of the Demon sect understood that potential. His mission required breaking Yelian's spirit until darkness became her only remaining path. The sect planned to remove her family, destroy her reputation, and sever her final emotional support. After complete despair, they would awaken her demon eyes and prepare her as a vessel. Shunyan's marriage blocked the most important condition behind that plan. Yelian would no longer face the capital alone while believing the man she loved had rejected her. The demon sect could still attack, but it had lost control over her heart. Leaving court, Shunyan found General Ye Tian waiting beside the palace road. The old general thanked him for honoring a promise made many years earlier. Shunyan answered by inviting the veteran to a newly opened morning tea house. Their relaxed meal concealed the political storm already growing behind them. General Ye Tian asked where the prince had vanished during 5 long years. At 13, Shunyan had left one note and escaped every imperial search. Emperor Shunwei had mobilized officials, soldiers, and informants across Great Qin. None of them found the runaway prince until he chose to return. Shunyan described battles, treasures, travel, and the enormous martial world beyond Tianwu. He deliberately omitted the allies, organizations, and strength gathered during those years. His sudden return had already unsettled every faction choosing sides for the future succession. The emperor increased that pressure by granting him the prestigious title Prince of Chu. Nobody knew whether the title expressed affection, political testing, or preparation for something greater. Shunyan preferred uncertainty because enemies made worse decisions when they lacked reliable measurements. Before leaving the market, he sent fresh tea and pastries to Yelian. Across the city, she sat beside a quiet lake playing the zither. A black ribbon covered the eyes that reflected pale light like distant stars. Yelian asked repeatedly whether her grandfather had returned from court. She expected ordinary news and received an imperial decree instead. Palace guards filled the Yi estate while a senior eunuch opened the golden scroll. The decree praised Yelian's virtue and named her future princess of Chu. Her household knelt, but Yelian could barely control her trembling. The man she had missed throughout Shunyan's disappearance had chosen her before the entire empire. Tears soaked through the black ribbon she used as protection from cruel attention. General Ye Tian saw those tears and understood how deeply his granddaughter had suffered. For the first time, her future contained certainty instead of whispered rejection. Shunyan returned to his manor and immediately shifted from romance to security. His Chamber of Commerce had already become a major supplier of Great Qin's war horses. Modern business knowledge gave him wealth, routes, information, and influence beyond a prince's salary. Mindu managed the household while Captain Changhai controlled its visible guards. Behind them stood a private network Shunyan had built from rescued orphans and talented outcasts. Fuxing commanded that shadow organization with discipline equal to any imperial unit. The group remained small, but every member owed loyalty directly to Shunyan. A masked agent named Enzi emerged from darkness with urgent intelligence. Gu Ruyi's carriage had reached the Marquis estate exactly when the novel predicted. The original heroine's arrival meant Tianwu's familiar storyline had officially started moving. Shunyan ordered observation but refused to treat Gu Ruyi as an enemy without cause. His greater concern was the withered Northern Elder leaving Evernight City. The demon sect official was already traveling toward the person he intended to corrupt. Shunyan calculated that the Elder would pass through Tianmen Pass before reaching the capital. He ordered Enzi and several elite fighters to build an execution trap there. Stopping the Elder early preserved Yelian's mind without exposing the reason Shunyan knew the threat existed. It also warned the demon sect that someone had begun dismantling its plans. Shunyan suspected the royal family already understood part of Yelian's secret. Emperor Shunwei would never admit a genuine curse into the imperial bloodline without preparation. The state teacher, famous for calculating hidden destinies, had also remained suspiciously silent for years. Those unanswered questions suggested Yelian occupied a larger design than the original novel revealed. Shunyan could not solve every mystery before acting. For now, one decree had given Yelian protection, hope, and a place beside him. One ambush would remove the first man assigned to turn that hope into despair. News traveled through Tianwu faster than the imperial decree could be copied. Commoners called the match madness, while ambitious officials measured the Ye family's military weight. Crown Prince Shun Mukin refused to oppose the decree, knowing that challenging it meant questioning the emperor. Fifth Prince, Shun Tingfeng worried that Shunyan had gained a powerful ally near the throne. His concern lasted only until hunger and gambling debts returned to the front of his mind. Even comic behavior made Tingfeng dangerous, because he noticed political shifts other princes ignored. Shunyan understood that every brother concealed ambition beneath a different public mask. Shun Mukin used restraint, Shun Jingyu used wealth, and Tingfeng hid calculation behind reckless humor. Marriage had therefore changed more than Yelian's private life. It redrew alliances across the capital before the wedding date even existed. Every faction now wanted to know what Shunyan had brought back from the martial world. That curiosity would soon send armed men directly into his carefully prepared defenses. The future Demoness finally possessed something destiny had denied her: She had a powerful prince determined to choose her every time. Shen Tingfeng arrived at the Chu manor, carrying congratulations and absolutely no wedding gift. Everyone in Tianwu knew the fifth prince as a charming rogue who survived through nerve, appetite, and shameless improvisation. Shunyan recognized that Tingfeng actually wanted money, so he offered expensive pastries instead. The snacks came from Hasheng Pavilion, a business whose popularity among nobles had become almost absurd. Tingfeng devoured them while learning the emperor had personally sent Shunyan an entire carriage. The realization hurt more than any insult because he still lived inside the palace and received nothing. Shunyan allowed him to take the remaining pastries, ending the visit before the original request for money appeared. Only outside the manor did Tingfeng realize his younger brother had redirected the entire conversation. He sold part of the food through aggressive royal intimidation and recovered enough silver to continue gambling. The incident looked ridiculous, but it showed how quickly every prince adapted when money or influence became available. Shunyan then prepared gifts for the Ye estate and traveled there under discreet protection. New spies followed his carriage, hoping to learn what secrets the returned prince carried. Fuxing removed them inside a narrow alley before they could reach the mansion gates. Shunyan heard blades touch flesh, closed the curtain, and continued without changing expression. Tianwu remained peaceful only on the surface. Powerful families settled questions through hidden blood every night. General Ye Tian welcomed Shunyan like family rather than a formal royal guest. Their closeness came from years when the young prince visited Yelian throughout childhood. During Shunyan's disappearance, his letters had been the only proof keeping her hope alive. The general deliberately left them alone inside the estate study. Two curious maids watched from the doorway until Shunyan entered. Yelian immediately lowered her head, embarrassed that he had seen her correcting their noisy behavior. A black silk ribbon once again covered her pale blue eyes. Shunyan stepped closer and untied it before she could retreat. He shielded her from sudden light until her vision adjusted. The tenderness carried more force than another public declaration. Yelian had spent years treating concealment as the price of existing without conflict. Shunyan treated her eyes as something beautiful enough to protect openly. He admitted that his original interest had begun with changing the novel's storyline. Time had transformed that calculation into genuine love. Yelian's trust, patience, and quiet devotion had become more real than any remembered plot. Shunyan promised himself the wedding would happen before another faction could exploit uncertainty. They walked to a lakeside pavilion where Yelian asked about the martial world beyond Tianwu. Shunyan described challenging the Sword Saint and escaping their first encounter before suffering broken ribs during the second. Yelian immediately reached for medicine, proving that concern for him overcame every trace of social restraint. He reassured her that the injuries had healed long before returning to the capital. Their conversation ended when Tingfeng appeared at the Ye estate searching for another free meal. Yelian instinctively reached toward her ribbon before meeting another prince. Shunyan took it away and refused to let fear decide how she presented herself. He promised that anyone mocking her eyes would regret testing the protection of the Prince of Chu. The words broke through years of insecurity, and Yelian embraced him before her maids could hide their excitement. Tingfeng entered the hall expecting food and found Shunyan walking beside a veiled young woman. When Yelian bowed, her uncovered eyes and extraordinary beauty left him completely speechless. Shunyan introduced her as his future wife with pride impossible to misunderstand. Tingfeng finally understood why his brother had challenged the capital's rumors before the entire court. The famous four beauties suddenly seemed ordinary beside the woman hidden inside the Ye estate. He offered sincere congratulations, then escaped before General Ye Tian could deny him dinner again. By the following morning, Tingfeng had converted one private discovery into Tianwu's loudest rumor. Academy students paid him silver and jewelry for details about Yelian's appearance. Fear changed into fascination before officials could control the conversation. Some people began calling Yelian a hidden fairy rather than a demonic omen. Others argued that the capital should recognize 5 great beauties instead of 4. Reckless young nobles attempted to climb the Ye estate walls for a glimpse. General Ye Tian's guards beat them down before anyone crossed the inner courtyard. The harassment remained dangerous because curiosity could easily conceal assassination or surveillance. Shunyan had expected that reaction and sent 100 elite guards to reinforce the estate. Their silver and black armor transformed the marriage promise into visible military protection. General Ye Tian accepted them with satisfaction, recognizing that Shunyan had prepared before the rumors exploded. The prince's public choice was rebuilding Yelian's reputation faster than years of private defense ever could. At Tianwu Academy, the same gossip distracted students from their lessons. Shen Tingfeng sold the story repeatedly until his pockets overflowed. Fourth Prince Shun Jingyu paid with gold, while the younger princes listened with open disbelief. Their teacher, Zhao Xiao, eventually ended the trading and checked attendance. Shunyan's name received no answer because the Prince of Chu had simply refused to attend. Even Tingfeng admired that level of confidence. The academy recorded every absence and sent reports directly to Emperor Shun Wei. Shunyan accepted the punishment because stopping the demon sect mattered more than another literature lecture. He knew enough poetry from his old world to impress scholars whenever survival required it. More importantly, his hidden agents had already reached Tianmen Pass. The fortress stood against endless desert wind as the first pass under heaven. A legendary sword scar divided one tower from roof to foundation. Lingering intent from the sword saint made repairs impossible and turned the damage into a pilgrimage site. Beyond those walls, the Withered Northern Elder sensed a small follower inside the sandstorm. A young scout named Zishu emerged, mocking the demon sect protector despite possessing far lower cultivation. Her confidence told the elder she had never come alone. 4 additional figures appeared around him and formed a perfect execution square. Martial strength in this world, advanced through unranked. First class, mortal, mysterious, free, heaven, and spirit realms. The elder held enough power to terrorize ordinary experts. Shunyan's hunters had been selected specifically to counter him. One fighter descended beneath the phantom of a golden tiger. Pure yang energy smashed into the desert and forced the elder away from direct combat. 3 arrows followed through the rising sand, denying him time to rebuild his defense. A ghostly palm shattered 2 shafts, but the third tore open his cheek. Black blood exposed the corrupted cultivation beneath his withered skin. Spear shadows then fell around him while a heavy staff attacked from above. The elder caught the weapon with one hand and prepared a killing counterstrike. The golden tiger fighter struck his chest first, breaking the gathered demonic energy. Another arrow pierced his hand while he flew backward. Outnumbered and wounded, the elder swallowed a forbidden hidden dragon pill. The drug forced his power into a violent temporary peak at the cost of future survival. Shunyan's agents immediately widened their formation instead of feeding the berserk state with careless attacks. An archer released one concentrated shot through the elder's forehead. The body exploded, but Enzi recognized a substitution technique before anyone relaxed. The elder had sacrificed his outer skin and escaped naked into the storm. His condition was horrifying, yet reaching Evernight City could still preserve the demon sect's plan. He sprinted across the dunes while promising revenge against every attacker. A bronze-masked figure appeared ahead through the haze. Hope lasted until the elder recognized Enzi walking directly toward him. Enzi drew one blade, passed without speaking, and returned it to the sheath. The elder took several more steps before black blood touched the sand. His body separated cleanly into 2 pieces. Only then did he understand that Enzi had reached half-step spirit realm strength. The desert buried the Withered Northern Elder before reinforcements could ever discover him. Yelian's intended corruptor died without seeing Tianwu, her eyes, or the prince who ordered his execution. The demon sect would notice his extinguished soul lamp immediately. That reaction no longer mattered as much as removing the only official tied directly to the original tragedy. Shunyan had changed Yelian's emotional future through marriage. Now he changed her supernatural future through a silent death far from the capital. The public celebrated beauty while hidden killers erased the machinery meant to create a Demoness. Neither side understood the complete picture except the Prince of Chu. Back in Tianwu, Crown Prince Shan Mukin received reports about the guards transferred to the Ye estate. He admired Shunyan's protectiveness but noticed the Chu manor had become visibly weaker. Shun Mukin predicted another faction would use that opening to test the returned prince. Rather than interfere, he chose to watch whoever volunteered for the dangerous work. Shunyan made the same prediction before his brother finished forming it. The marriage rumor had drawn every eye toward Yelian. His reduced guard presence invited enemies toward a manor prepared specifically for them. Love had created the bait, and Shunyan intended to collect every secret revealed by the attack. That evening, Shunyan played chess with Fuxing while the capital waited for another dramatic move. Fuxing offered to intervene personally, but the prince had already arranged a more useful response. Imperial agents would be allowed to discover the intruders instead of Shunyan exposing his private force. Fireworks had been prepared as both entertainment and a hidden distress signal recognized by the Wuyi division. Mindu received precise instructions for retreat routes, false weakness, and the timing of every defensive layer. Shunyan then waited for Emperor Shunwei to summon him away from the manor. Leaving at the correct moment would protect his deniability while encouraging the attackers to enter completely. The approaching raid was no surprise. It was another plot Shunyan had chosen to rewrite in advance. Shunyan spent the evening stretching in the courtyard, while servants pretended nothing unusual was approaching. Imperial guards arrived exactly when expected and ordered him to enter the palace immediately. He mounted before they finished speaking, leaving Mindu to execute the prepared defense. At the imperial study, Shunyan found his father buried behind a mountain of official memorials. Emperor Shunwei began with the academy absence rather than the dangerous movement surrounding the capital. Shunyan admitted he had skipped because he simply did not want another lesson. The blunt answer earned a fine equal to 1 month of royal salary. Shunyan accepted without protest, although his father had already taken enormous profits from his businesses. The Bayan Chamber of Commerce supplied most of Great Qin's military horses. Emperor Shunwei had contributed protection and reputation, then claimed half the earnings with imperial confidence. Repeated fines quietly transferred even more of Shunyan's remaining share toward the palace. Their exchange looked like family comedy, but it also measured the prince's patience and financial independence. The emperor asked about foreign horse markets and grain transport preparations. Shunyan answered clearly, proving he understood national logistics rather than merely collecting merchant profits. He then requested an auspicious wedding date before rumors or enemy action created another delay. Emperor Shunwei noticed the urgency and asked whether public pressure had frightened him. Shunyan explained that unpredictable changes were more dangerous than gossip. His father remembered Yelian as a baby carried by the general who once guarded him personally. The old connection explained part of the emperor's unusually fast approval. Shunyan finally asked why the ruler showed no fear toward Yelian's supposed curse. Emperor Shunwei answered that he trusted his son to prevent her suffering. The statement sounded affectionate, yet Shunyan recognized another test beneath it. Protecting Yelian meant handling the inheritance, the demon sect, the Ye family, and the political consequences together. Before dismissing him, the emperor handed over another policy problem and threatened a second salary deduction for failure. Shunyan solved it well enough to escape with only the original punishment. After he left, the emperor questioned the chief eunuch about his sixth son's abilities. The eunuch praised Shunyan's intelligence, martial talent, education, and resemblance to his father. Emperor Shunwei then asked whether the Prince of Chu could become an heir. The question terrified the old servant more than any threat of execution. He dropped to his knees and refused to judge succession. Emperor Shunwei observed that Shunyan always acted with an unusually clear purpose. That quality made him valuable, dangerous, and difficult to control. Outside the palace, fireworks suddenly tore open Tianwu's night sky. Colorful explosions reflected across rooftops, rivers, and the windows of every noble estate. Yelian watched from her courtyard and quietly admired the display. Gu Ruyi saw the same lights from the Marquis estate without knowing their hidden purpose. Shunyan stopped his carriage at a safe distance and watched the sky with calm satisfaction. The fireworks originated from his manor, where Mindu had finished lighting the final signal. 30 black-clad infiltrators crossed the walls while visible guards offered deliberately weak resistance. Their leader mocked the household and ordered a search for 2 mysterious black boxes. Those boxes supposedly contained secrets Shunyan had carried home after 5 missing years. Mindu struck one attacker hard enough to create credibility, then ordered everyone deeper into the estate. The infiltrators followed because apparent victory made them careless. Crossbow bolts arrived through the fireworks before they reached the hidden rooms. Half the attackers fell beneath a single coordinated volley. Masked Wuyi division agents appeared across the rooftops with heavy repeating crossbows. The Emperor's secret enforcement force had recognized its own distress signal. Their commander, Sanchi, ordered a direct assault before the assassins could reorganize. Wuyi fighters dropped into the courtyard like wolves descending on trapped prey. The attackers discovered that Shunyan's weak defense had only guided them inside a closed killing ground. Blades flashed beneath exploding colors while servants remained protected behind reinforced doors. The assassin leader broke away and attempted to clear the outer wall. Sanchi intercepted him with a chained meteor hammer. The first impact shattered part of the leader's sword and numbed his entire arm. A second rotation ignited flames around the weapon and forced the wounded man backward. Desperate sword energy cut an opening through the fire. Sanchi allowed the leader to escape because another Wu Yi commander waited beyond the wall. The remaining intruders carried suicide preparations, preventing useful interrogation after capture. By the time Shunyan returned, bodies and broken tiles covered the courtyard. He demanded compensation before thanking anyone for the rescue. Sanchi reminded him that the division had arrived to protect a prince from assassins. Shunyan answered that the fireworks summoned them for their own investigation. Mindu immediately began calculating every damaged roof tile, floor stone, and decorative wall. The performance pushed Sanchi closer to anger than the surviving assassin ever managed. Shunyan knew the manor had originally been renovated with imperial money. Charging the Wu Yi division for repairs meant demanding payment twice from the emperor. A cold female voice interrupted before the argument became dangerous. Baihu descended in white robes, carrying the presence of one of the division's 4 supreme leaders. She confirmed that the assassin leader remained alive in an alley outside. Sanchi withdrew with his agents, leaving the prince alone with someone far more powerful. Baihu greeted Shunyan with personal resentment rather than official formality. His guards stared because no ordinary prince spoke casually with the feared commander. Inside the study, Baihu complained that he had returned without visiting her. Shunyan redirected the conversation toward compensation and mocked the difference in their ages. She reminded him that she was the aunt entrusted with his care. His late mother had placed that responsibility on Baihu before Shunyan disappeared. Their bickering concealed 5 years of worry neither wanted to state directly. Baihu admitted she had never expected him to return voluntarily to Tianwu's succession struggle. Shunyan answered that unresolved matters had made permanent escape impossible. Yelian's future, the royal family's secrets, and the coming northern crisis were among those matters. Baihu promised to remain in the capital until the new year. She offered direct support if any faction moved beyond what Shunyan could manage. He refused to visit Wu Yi headquarters openly because political observers would treat every entrance as proof of alliance. Association with the emperor's hidden sword could protect him physically while destroying him politically. Baihu left behind a folding fan painted with a white tiger descending a mountain. Anyone recognizing the object would understand that her authority stood behind its holder. After she vanished, Shunyan asked Fuxing to estimate their chances in a direct fight. Fuxing judged the outcome evenly balanced. That answer confirmed Shunyan's hidden guardian could contest one of Great Qin's most feared martial experts. The power struggle no longer depended on replacing one prince with another. Ancient clans, merchant houses, military families, and martial sects fed from every movement of the imperial dragon. Shunyan intended to break that pattern instead of becoming another ruler controlled by it. He checked the household and learned that only several guards had suffered light injuries. Every wounded servant received double compensation for following the plan. The assassins had entered seeking secrets and left without measuring Shunyan's actual force. The Wu Yi division saw enough to remain interested but not enough to expose his private network. Rival factions learned that attacking the Chu manor could summon imperial executioners within minutes. Shunyan gained evidence, leverage, and a stronger excuse to avoid court the following morning. He used the assassination attempt to claim shock and exhaustion. Rather than sleep, he walked directly toward the Yi estate without an escort. Yelian brightened when he appeared before her grandfather returned from the palace. She expected Shunyan to attend the same court session and immediately sensed something unusual. He concealed the attack because the truth would make her fear that marriage had placed him in danger. Yelian would have blamed herself, lost sleep, and possibly returned to hiding. Shunyan instead described urgent business and invited her outside for a walk. She hesitated because the capital had treated public attention as punishment throughout her life. He took her hand and interpreted silence as agreement. Yelian returned wearing a white veil rather than the black ribbon. The veil protected her identity without presenting her eyes as something shameful. Her maids joined them with barely contained excitement. Changhai and 2 soldiers followed at enough distance to preserve privacy. General Ye Tian arrived moments after they slipped through the rear gate. Court had spent the morning investigating the attack on Shunyan's manor. The emperor had ordered Tianwu searched so aggressively that every hidden faction felt pressure. General Ye Tian heard his granddaughter had left willingly and could only laugh. He had failed many times to convince Yelian to explore the city. Shunyan succeeded because she trusted him more than she feared strangers. The outing looked romantic, but it also served a larger recovery. Yelian needed ordinary experiences before hostile rumors became the only world she understood. Shunyan intended to teach confidence, judgment, and social strength through action. The capital had attacked his home during the night. By morning, he answered by bringing Yelian directly into the life enemies wanted her to fear. That choice denied the attackers an emotional victory they never realized they had been seeking. Yelian would not become a frightened prisoner inside the safety arranged around her. Shunyan planned to make her visible, respected, and strong enough to face Tianwu beside him. The wealthy South Market provided Yelian's first step beyond the walls that had sheltered her. Silk shops, jade counters, and wine houses stood beneath quiet streets reserved for powerful families. Ordinary citizens avoided the district because one accidental collision with nobility could destroy a household. Yelian stopped before a fabric shop and imagined new robes for Shunyan. He noticed immediately and invited her inside before embarrassment could silence the choice. She selected fine silk and brocade while reaching toward her own small money pouch. Shunyan paid first and ordered everything delivered to the Ye estate. The assistant recognized their identities from the destination and nearly exploded with excitement. Changhai warned him that careless gossip could attract more intruders toward Yelian. The group continued north until noble silence gave way to crowded common streets. Merchants shouted, carts squeezed past pedestrians, and ordinary life pressed from every direction. Their expensive clothing created an empty circle because nobody wanted responsibility for touching them. Yelian nearly reached for Shunyan's sleeve, then withdrew before appearing improper. He moved closer without exposing her hesitation. A vendor selling candied hawthorn gave Shunyan an easy distraction from the growing attention. The prince discovered that every coin he carried was too valuable for a 2-copper purchase. Yelian quietly produced the correct amount and rescued him from an absurd royal problem. Her maids bought their own sweets, while the vendor realized he had just served a prince. Yelian faced another challenge because the white veil blocked every attempt to eat. Shunyan used controlled inner energy to remove one candied fruit from the skewer. He lifted the veil slightly and fed her as they had fed each other during childhood. The small act carried more intimacy than any expensive gift. Yelian blushed, but she accepted the fruit instead of retreating behind formal rules. Her growing comfort proved that public life did not need to equal humiliation. A beggar woman and her son then caught Yelian's attention. She reached for several pieces of silver, hoping to change their circumstances immediately. Shunyan stopped her wrist before the money reached the broken bowl. Several desperate beggars watched from a nearby alley. Large silver would keep the family comfortable, but it would also mark them as targets. Shunyan gave copper instead, providing food without placing a fortune in defenseless hands. Yelian initially struggled with the decision because her generosity was completely sincere. He explained that kindness without understanding could create the exact danger it tried to remove. The lesson saddened her, yet she accepted it instead of protecting her pride. Shunyan did not want to destroy Yelian's compassion. He wanted her compassion strong enough to survive people who weaponized innocence. A wooden hairpin stall offered another harmless moment of discovery. Yelian examined simple carvings with more interest than the jeweled ornaments available in noble shops. Nearby, a maid called the name Chun, instantly triggering Shunyan's memory of the original novel. The maid belonged to Gu Ruyi. The heroine stood only a few steps away, exactly where destiny had arranged another familiar encounter. Gu Ruyi possessed pale skin, dark flowing hair, and the gentle beauty that captivated every male lead. Shunyan recognized her immediately and felt no romantic pull. The absence of obsession confirmed that remembered destiny had no authority over his choices. Gu Ruyi noticed him and reacted with visible surprise. Her attention moved between the extraordinary prince and the veiled woman beside him. Yelian and Gu Ruyi reached toward the same wooden comb. Both withdrew politely, avoiding the childish conflict common throughout the original story. Shunyan selected a different comb carved from polished ox horn. The old vendor explained that her son had created it through exceptional craftsmanship. Shunyan paid more than requested because the work deserved more than desperate market pricing. He placed the comb into Yelian's hands and asked whether she liked it. Yelian understood the traditional meaning immediately. A comb represented the promise to remain together until both heads turned white. Her joy settled the choice without any need for elaborate words. Gu Ruyi watched from the side while an unfamiliar emptiness touched her expression. The man every narrative rule had marked for her looked only towards someone else. Shunyan left without giving the heroine another glance. Yelian bowed politely before following him through the crowd. The original meeting had still occurred, but its emotional direction had reversed completely. Gu Ruyi remained behind, wondering why the prince had ignored her. Her maid teased her growing interest while Shanghai quietly recorded the encounter. Shunyan treated Gu Ruyi as neither enemy nor reward. She was simply another person whose future choices would determine whether conflict became necessary. Yelian became quiet after seeing the heroine's beauty. Years of ridicule made comparison almost automatic. She wondered whether Shunyan would have chosen Gu Ruyi after meeting her first. Shunyan recognized the fear before she could form a careful question. He asked whether Yelian had forgotten to look into a mirror. Then he declared her the most beautiful person he had ever seen. More importantly, he called her pale blue eyes the most beautiful part. The statement attacked the wound beneath every surface insecurity. Yelian had been taught that those eyes erased the value of every other feature. Shunyan treated them as the reason comparison itself became meaningless. He reminded her that she was his future princess in both private affection and public commitment. Yelian protested being called foolish, but her relief appeared through the veil. The walk continued until midday, when Shunyan brought everyone to Zuishian restaurant. The restaurant secretly belonged to him, although most customers believed an older prince controlled it. Yelian ate with the careful grace expected from a noble daughter. Shunyan spent the meal peeling crab and filling her plate faster than she could finish. When she claimed to be full, he pulled the remaining food toward himself. Yelian tried to stop him because a prince eating her leftovers violated everything etiquette had taught her. Shunyan cared more about waste and closeness than those rules. The argument ended when he pulled her into his arms and kissed her. Yelian froze before slowly accepting the affection she had imagined throughout his absence. The kiss changed their relationship from promised childhood loyalty into undeniable adult love. Shunyan apologized for making her wait 5 years without knowing whether he would return. Yelian answered that holding a place in his heart had always been enough. Her willingness to accept so little made Shunyan more determined to give her security. Crashing furniture from the floor below destroyed the private moment. Anger replaced tenderness because someone had chosen the worst possible time to attack his business. 2 men loudly accused Zuishian of charging dishonest prices for premium wine. Their performance drew a crowd from the street and attempted to turn curiosity into scandal. The restaurant manager recognized one troublemaker as a relative of Ding Fu's manager. Ding Fu operated nearby and belonged to 4th Prince Shunjingyu. The scheme probably came from lower management rather than the prince himself. That distinction did not remove the opportunity it created. Shanghai descended first and dropped both men before they could continue shouting. One kick removed several teeth and ended the public performance immediately. Shunyan followed with enough calm authority to shift every witness toward his side. The crowd recognized the Prince of Chu and understood the attackers had interrupted a royal meal. He ordered both men delivered to the capital prefecture under his name. That command transformed a business dispute into a political problem. Shunyan then allowed the manager to use techniques learned from modern publicity. Every current diner received a free meal. Fruit and wine were distributed outside while the manager explained the marked prices. The street celebration drowned the attempted scandal beneath generosity and excitement. Zuishian gained customers instead of losing them. Ding Fu's incompetent employees gave Shunyan the perfect reason to contact its royal owner. Yelian watched him turn an insult into profit without unnecessary slaughter. The lesson matched the warning about silver given to the beggar family. Power worked best when judgment controlled the amount and direction of force. Shunyan returned upstairs and finished the meal beside a fiancé who now understood more of his world. The city outing had given Yelian cloth, sweets, a comb, and her first kiss. It also gave her practical knowledge about poverty, danger, business, reputation, and public perception. Most importantly, she met Gu Ruyi without losing Shunyan's attention for even one heartbeat. The heroine's arrival had once triggered Yelian's destruction. This time, it strengthened the certainty between the future Demoness and the man who rejected destiny. At Ding Fu, the failed scheme created panic before the prisoners even reached their cells. The manager's wife demanded rescue for her brother while officials refused to challenge the Prince of Chu. Manager Shen Kai spent the night kneeling outside Shun Jingyu's residence. The 4th prince ignored him long enough to make fear more effective than immediate punishment. Shun Jingyu had already suspected that one of his brothers secretly owned Zuishian. Discovering Shunyan behind the restaurant turned an embarrassing mistake into valuable information. He prepared an apology designed to test cooperation rather than merely repair damaged pride. By morning, the restaurant conflict had become the opening move of a possible royal alliance. Shun Jingyu began the morning by finally allowing manager Shen Kai into his hall. The exhausted man could barely kneel upright after spending the entire night outside. Jingyu asked whether he understood the mistake that had damaged more than one restaurant. Shen Kai begged for survival while refusing to blame the royal master behind his employment. The prince gave him a piece of gold, a gesture more frightening than open rage. Jingyu's refined subordinate Wu then escorted the manager toward the capital prefecture. Shen Kai expected his brother-in-law to be released after compensation. Instead, Wu led them through an isolated alley hidden between high walls. The two men who had staged the restaurant scandal died before they understood the route. Wu crushed them with controlled brutality and informed Shen Kai that prison had claimed their lives. The message was clear. Incompetence could be forgiven only after every dangerous loose end disappeared. Jingyu then traveled personally to the Chu Manor with an enormous gift. 8 matching pieces of gold and jade jewelry served as the visible apology. Shunyan accepted without pretending the luxury held no value. Among all the imperial sons, 4th Prince Jingyu controlled the greatest private wealth. His mother came from the Shao clan, whose fortune had helped rebuild Tianwu. That same clan surrounded Jingyu with expectations, obligations, and constant pressure. He asked about the assassination attempt and offered access to barbarian mercenaries. Shunyan displayed damaged walls and behaved like a prince who had barely survived. Neither brother believed the performance completely. Their polite concern concealed careful attempts to measure each other's resources. Jingyu admitted that Ding Fu's employees had caused the Zuishian incident. The capital prefecture had imposed a heavy fine to avoid choosing openly between princes. Shunyan learned that the money was already traveling toward his estate. Jingyu moved closer and framed the entire matter as a personal apology. His friendliness briefly became so intense that Shunyan questioned the direction of the conversation. The real surprise arrived only after Jingyu left. Mindu received instructions to bring accountants to Ding Fu and complete an ownership transfer. The entire rival restaurant now belonged to Shunyan. Jingyu had offered far more than jewelry or compensation. He had handed over a profitable building, staff network, and strategic location in the North Market. The gift tested whether Shunyan possessed enough authority to keep it. It also invited reactions from the Shao clan and every faction watching the 4th prince. Jingyu wanted freedom more than another layer of inherited wealth. His maternal relatives treated him like a valuable bird trapped inside a golden cage. Shunyan had old reasons to oppose the Shao clan and understood the unspoken bargain. Cooperation could help Jingyu escape without forcing either brother into immediate public alliance. Shunyan preferred that arrangement to Ting Feng's endless promises and empty pockets. A brother who paid generously for help was easier to evaluate. Inside Jingyu's own estate, subordinate Wu questioned why Ding Fu had been surrendered. The prince answered through a mental illusion that made Wu feel his throat being cut. Jingyu reminded him that service required trust beyond ordinary scholarship. Wu recognized the danger behind his master's elegant behavior and pledged absolute loyalty. The 4th prince then measured himself against the other imperial sons. Crown Prince Shunmukin had reached the Free Realm while still remarkably young. Prince Shinjun commanded 10,000 elite cavalry and possessed genuine battlefield authority. Shunyan had returned with unknown martial strength, businesses, secret allies, and the Ye family's growing connection. Jingyu needed more than wealth if he intended to choose his own future. The restaurant transfer placed one bridge toward the brother most capable of disturbing every existing faction. At the Chu Manor, Inzi arrived with confirmation from Tianmen Pass. The Withered Northern Elder had died 20 miles west of the fortress. Shunyan accepted the result without celebration because the demon sect would immediately replace a lost protector. Evernight City maintained soul lamps for every important official. 3 ceremonial bells rang after the elder's lamp went dark. That signal called senior members toward a major meeting. The sect had become a state religion across neighboring kingdoms and no longer lacked manpower. Its leader only needed another breakthrough before challenging Great Qin openly. Killing one elder protected Yelian today but accelerated attention toward Tianwu. Shunyan ordered the Silver Tigers to return and wait for further instructions. He refused to attack Evernight City directly before understanding the royal family's deeper plan. Pressure had to remain controlled so the sect exposed pieces instead of closing every route. Shunyan then gave Fuxing a different mission in the southeast. A powerful weapon had remained inside Sword Lake throughout his return to the capital. Fuxing received an empty scabbard capable of calling that weapon. Shunyan also sent an insulting greeting toward the old fisherman guarding the lake. Fuxing rarely showed emotion, but the mission finally disturbed his perfect calm. The reaction suggested everyone familiar with the sword remembered its difficult nature. Shunyan wanted it because Tianwu had become too dangerous for continued reliance on hidden protection alone. He studied Baihu's White Tiger fan while thinking about the coming autumn. Northern barbarians traditionally grew more aggressive when seasons changed. Court factions, demon sect agents, merchant clans, and military interests would soon collide. A prince without a decisive weapon could become dependent on forces carrying their own conditions. Recovering the sword preserved Shunyan's ability to choose when every alliance demanded payment. For the next 3 days, he publicly claimed the assassination had damaged his spirit. The excuse removed him from court and academy without exposing any real weakness. Privately, he spent the time beside Yelian. On clear days, they fished, hunted, and walked through protected countryside. During rain, they remained in the study with tea, music, and stories from his former world. Shunyan changed unfamiliar details while preserving lessons about trust, greed, loyalty, and human contradiction. Yelian absorbed every story because she had experienced little life beyond family walls. The rumors around her appearance gradually softened instead of returning toward fear. Shunyan reduced the visible guard presence once random spectators stopped gathering. Dingfu remained closed while workers prepared to transform it into a hot pot restaurant. The new concept would use communal dining to separate it from every competitor. Mindu then delivered an invitation from Du Dunming, son of Duke Anga. The Du family had known Shunyan since childhood and remained close to General Ye Tian. Dunming had once been a frightened, round boy who avoided insects. 5 years had passed, and Shunyan expected some change but not what awaited him. The invitation announced a gathering of young nobles on a flower boat along the Luo River. Poetry, wine, music, and political networking normally defined such events. Shunyan cared less about entertainment than the opportunity it offered Yelian. She needed friends her own age and public recognition beyond rumors of beauty. Every attendee would learn she was General Ye Tian's granddaughter and the future princess of Chu. Shunyan reached the Yi estate while the old general remained away. Yelian panicked when she heard about the gathering. She feared making a mistake that could embarrass the prince before experienced noble daughters. Shunyan refused to let fear become another wall. He lifted her into his arms before she could construct a formal excuse. Yelian hit against his chest while both maids failed to contain their laughter. A white veil returned for travel, but this time it functioned as privacy rather than shame. The Luo River cut through Tianwu beneath rows of shops and enormous decorated boats. Music drifted across the water while performers called toward wealthy guests. Shunyan immediately regretted choosing a location filled with flirtation. He worried Yelian might believe he had spent his missing years visiting pleasure boats. Her first quiet question proved the concern accurate. Shunyan explained that Dunming selected the location and that his own visits had served intelligence or pursuit. Yelian believed him, which created more guilt than suspicion would have. Her trust made honesty a responsibility rather than an easy advantage. A small boat carried them toward the Grand Manhwa Pavilion. Shanghai followed separately, keeping enough distance to watch every approach. Performers waved from the decks until Yelian's hand tightened beside Shunyan. He ignored every invitation and focused completely on helping her board. A seductive boat mistress tried leaning against Shanghai and met the hilt of his sword instead. His emotionless reaction convinced her that the soldier could not be manipulated through ordinary charm. She then noticed Shunyan's imperial token and transformed instantly into perfect hospitality. The Manhwa Pavilion contained public entertainment below and private noble rooms above. As they climbed, laughter and music stopped behind one decorated door. Heavy footsteps approached with enough force to make the floorboards complain. The door opened, revealing a man so enormous that Shunyan briefly failed to recognize his childhood friend. Du Dunming grabbed the prince, lifted him from the floor, and cried with unrestrained happiness. 5 years had turned the former round child into a battlefield giant. The reunion announced that Yelian's first noble gathering would be far less controlled than she feared. Behind Dunming waited his scholarly younger brother, Du Chengjiang, whose appearance had changed just as dramatically. One brother had returned from military training, while the other studied beneath Tianwu's most respected teacher. Together, They offered Yelian the first social circle connected to both Shunyan's childhood and her own family. Dunming's overwhelming embrace nearly crushed the breath from Shunyan before anyone completed a formal greeting. The giant apologized, set him down, and immediately stared at the veiled woman holding his brother's hand. Shunyan introduced Yelian as a close companion without revealing everything in the hallway. Inside the private room, young lords and noble daughters rose together. Every guest recognized the Prince of Chu, even when his clothing remained deliberately understated. Changhai closed the door and took position beside it like an armed statue. Du Chengjiang welcomed Shunyan with the calmer manners expected from a literary student. The younger brother had once been thin and dark from childhood illness. Academy training transformed him into a composed scholar beside Dunming's enormous military frame. Shunyan joked about both changes while accepting the seat reserved at the head. Dunming explained that General Ye Tian had thrown him into northern military camps for several years. That answer immediately caught Yelian's attention beneath the veil. Her grandfather had personally supervised the giant's training and discipline. Dunming had crossed the border more than once and killed northern raiders in real combat. His pride sounded loud, but it came from surviving conditions most noble youths only discussed. Shunyan raised a cup to experience earned through danger rather than inherited title. The room followed, giving Dunming recognition without turning the gathering into empty flattery. He admitted General Ye Tian still beat him whenever confidence became recklessness. Laughter softened the formal atmosphere and allowed Yelian to breathe more naturally. The guests continued glancing toward her because Shunyan never released her hand. Rumors had already described the hidden beauty of the Ye estate. Nobody expected the mysterious woman to appear at a pleasure boat gathering. Du Chengjiang recognized the connection before his older brother. He quietly instructed Dunming to address Yelian as his future sister-in-law. Dunming needed several moments to understand the obvious truth. Shunyan confirmed that the woman beside him was General Ye Tian's granddaughter. The giant shock pulled every remaining whisper into silence. Yelian tightened her fingers around Shunyan's hand. He felt the fear but refused to answer it by hiding her again. Instead, Shunyan asked whether she wished to remove the veil. The decision remained hers, even though his confidence offered support. Yelian looked across the room and remembered why they had come. Remaining covered would preserve safety, but it would also let rumor speak in her place. Her hands trembled while reaching toward the white silk. The veil fell into her lap. Pale blue eyes met the gathering without apology. The entire room stopped moving. Yelian's beauty exceeded the stories Tingfeng had sold throughout the academy. Several noble daughters instinctively compared themselves before recognizing the unfairness of the standard. Young men who had prepared poetry forgot every rehearsed line. Dunming stared openly until his brother struck his shoulder. Yelian remained upright while fear tightened every muscle beneath her calm posture. She refused to lower her eyes because weakness could become ridicule against Shunyan. That courage affected him more deeply than the stunned reactions around them. He introduced her formally as the future princess of Chu. The title connected Yelian to royal authority, but her own composure made the declaration believable. She greeted each guest with controlled courtesy. Pingmu, son of the Marquis of Luqing, stood first and offered respect. Others followed quickly, ensuring nobody appeared slower to recognize the new political reality. Du Chengjiang addressed her as sister-in-law with a proper bow. Dunming repeated the greeting loudly enough for everyone on the floor to hear. Yelian's ears turned red, but she accepted rather than hiding behind correction. The group shifted from staring toward actual conversation. Noble daughters asked about music, clothing, and possible shopping visits. Yelian discovered that not every stranger approached her with fear or cruelty. Some were nervous themselves and simply lacked a safe opening. Her first new friendships formed because one act of courage replaced years of mystery. Shunyan allowed the younger guests to guide conversation instead of controlling every exchange. He wanted her strong enough to build relationships, judge intentions, and command respect independently. The party divided into smaller circles while wine moved across the tables. Young lords attempted to impress one another with poems, travel claims, and exaggerated training stories. Shunyan's 5 years outside Tianwu made most performances sound painfully sheltered. Dunming demanded real stories from the martial world. Shunyan described distant roads, dangerous passes, strange customs, and battles without exposing secret operations. Every detail reminded the noble youths that the capital represented comfort rather than the entire world. They resembled young eagles raised inside decorated cages. Many dreamed of freedom without understanding hunger, betrayal, or death beyond the walls. Shunyan did not mock that innocence because he had once relied on the same protection. He simply warned that adventure became less romantic when companions failed to return. Dumming listened more seriously than the others because Northern service had already taught him part of that lesson. The giant asked Shunyan to take him along during the next journey. He offered to guard supplies, carry equipment, or fight at the front. Shunyan accepted conditionally and warned him never to regret leaving comfort behind. Dumming promised through another cup of wine. Du Chengjiang watched his brother with equal concern and pride. The younger scholar understood that restraining Dunming completely would only make him reckless later. Yelian listened while recognizing another side of Shunyan's missing years. He had built friendships with people willing to follow him beyond court assignments. Those bonds came from shared danger rather than marriage alliances. The realization strengthened her belief that Shunyan's hidden power exceeded titles and money. At another table, noble daughters invited Yelian to shop with them. She initially checked Shunyan's expression before answering. He smiled but offered no command. Yelian accepted on her own and selected a day that fit their family's schedules. The small decision mattered because she had rarely arranged anything outside the Ye estate. Compliments about her eyes arrived without fear. Some guests spoke awkwardly, yet none repeated the language of curses. Hingfeng's gossip had opened the door, but Yelian's behavior changed what people would repeat afterward. By evening, the mysterious demon-eyed lady had become a graceful woman with humor, judgment, and obvious courage. Shunyan watched the transformation without drawing attention toward himself. His original goal had succeeded more completely than expected. The party ended as sunlight turned the Luo River into broken gold. Dunming had consumed enough wine to require help standing. He clutched Shunyan's arm and repeated the request not to be abandoned during future travel. Shunyan promised again while Du Chengjiang pulled the giant upright. Northern cold had taught Dunming to love strong wine almost as much as battle. Nobody judged the weakness harshly because his honesty remained impossible to fake. Outside the room, river wind cooled the crowded deck. Yelian kept her veil folded instead of returning it to her face. That choice showed more progress than every compliment received inside. Shunyan asked whether she had enjoyed the gathering. Yelian admitted it was the first time she had made friends who were not servants or relatives. The result felt like a dream after years of expecting rejection. Shunyan reminded her not to break the shopping promise. A piece of modern slang confused Yelian until he translated it into ordinary language. She repeated the lesson seriously, making him question whether teaching casual expressions to a future princess was wise. Their laughter remained quiet enough not to attract the surrounding guests. Shunyan leaned closer and kissed her cheek before she could prepare. Yelian froze, then accused him of attacking whenever her guard fell. Joy beneath the complaint made the protest unconvincing. She gathered courage for several silent seconds. Then Yelian rose onto her toes and kissed his cheek in return. The counterattack shocked Shunyan more effectively than any assassin inside his manor. Yelian immediately pulled the veil over her face without actually tying it. Her clumsy attempt to hide made the moment even more obvious. Shunyan took her hand and guided her toward the waiting boat. Changhai stood beside the railing while performers watched his disciplined silhouette. The boat mistress wished them safe travel without inviting the prince to return alone. She understood that one careless joke could cost every future noble customer. Their small boat separated from the Manhwa pavilion as evening settled over Tianwu. Yelian watched the decorated lights recede without returning to the frightened silence of their arrival. The gathering had not transformed her into someone new. It revealed confidence that cruelty had buried but never destroyed. Shunyan had chosen the future Demoness before the Empire. Now the Empire's next generation had begun choosing to respect Yelian in return. While Shunyan returned Yelian to the Ye estate, Fuxing traveled far beyond the capital. His destination was Southeast Sword Lake, a holy place for martial artists who pursued the blade. Legends claimed the region began as an ancient battlefield connected to another realm. A peerless sword immortal once settled beside the water and treated the lake as his private domain. Eventually, that immortal rode a flying sword toward the eastern horizon and never returned. Generations later, blacksmiths discovered rare ores throughout the surrounding mountains. Their clan moved into the area and forged countless weapons beside the lake. Swords from those furnaces spread across kingdoms and became treasures among martial families. Then an enormous flood arrived from the east. Water swallowed the workshops, homes, furnaces, and every record of the smithing clan. The people vanished, but their blades remained beneath the deepening lake. Centuries passed before a traveling scholar fell into the water. Villagers rescued him while he clutched a rusted iron sword. Young men dove afterward, hoping to recover similar treasures. They found the lake floor covered by more swords than anyone could count. Not one blade moved when ordinary hands attempted to pull it free. The scholar abandoned his examinations and spent years sitting beside the water. Everyone believed the encounter had destroyed his mind. One day, green lotuses suddenly bloomed across the lake. The scholar rose, laughed toward the sky, and declared that one blade contained 3,000 worlds. Thousands of submerged swords rang together beneath the water. He stepped onto the rusted weapon and flew east. The world later remembered him as Poem's sword immortal Chufinya. His transformation turned Southeast Sword Lake into a pilgrimage destination. Swordsmen arrived from every region seeking recognition from the weapons below. Most left without receiving even the weakest response. The lake accepted talent according to rules no sect had fully explained. At dusk, Fuxing reached a wooden pier extending through heavy mist. An old fisherman sat at the edge wearing a straw raincoat. His bamboo pole looked ordinary, but the stillness around him revealed terrifying control. A carp finally broke the surface after hours beneath the darkening sky. The old man examined it and complained that it was not the sword he wanted. He released the fish and acknowledged Fuxing without turning around. Fuxing carried no visible sword aura despite entering a sacred site for swordsmen. That absence made his purpose immediately suspicious. He bowed and presented the empty scabbard Shunyan had provided. The fisherman recognized the prince's presence clinging to it. Irritation replaced the old man's detached expression. He remembered Shunyan as a troublesome brat rather than a respectful royal. The weapon tied to that scabbard had remained inside Sword Lake for years. Instead of resting quietly, it used the entire lake to nourish its damaged foundation. Its presence disturbed submerged swords, redirected spiritual energy, and made fishing nearly impossible. The old man considered those crimes serious enough to demand personal revenge. Fuxing avoided arguing because Shunyan had warned him about the guardian's temper. He only repeated that he had come to retrieve the prince's sword. The fisherman ordered him to enter the lake and take it himself. Before Fuxing moved, the bamboo pole bent sharply toward the water. The old man's cloudy eyes brightened with sudden focus. Something beneath the lake had finally taken the hook. His hands tightened while muscles expanded beneath the raincoat. The bamboo formed a deep curve without snapping. Water around the pier began rotating in widening circles. Mist pulled toward the center as if the lake itself had started breathing. A whirlpool formed with enough force to shake the ancient wooden boards. Fuxing stepped backward and protected the scabbard from the violent spray. The fisherman planted both feet and hauled upward. A column of water erupted 100 meters into the air. Its impact shook the surrounding forest and scattered every nearby bird. A roar emerged from the whirlpool, deeper than any ordinary beast. Fuxing looked upward as the falling water separated around a massive shape. A black five-clawed dragon coiled above the lake. For one breath, it appeared alive enough to challenge heaven. Closer examination revealed a body formed from sword intent rather than flesh. The empty scabbard in Fuxing's hands began vibrating violently. Every tremor matched the dragon's movements. This terrifying creature was Shunyan's missing sword. The black dragon roared directly at the fisherman holding its line. Its enormous body then compressed through layers of dark energy. Scales became steel, claws became edges, and the dragon condensed into a 3-foot blade. The weapon hung above the water with anger radiating from every surface. A fishing line remained wrapped around its hilt. The old man pulled hard, refusing to release something that had ruined years of peaceful fishing. He threatened to destroy the rebellious weapon rather than return it easily. Fuxing understood why Shunyan had sent the scabbard instead of coming personally. The sword possessed enough spirit to reject ordinary ownership. It also carried the temperament of the prince who had awakened it. Beneath them, countless submerged blades began humming in response. Sword Lake recognized the black dragon as something far beyond common steel. The old fisherman tightened his grip and forced the weapon closer to the pier. Dark energy resisted, tearing grooves through the surface of the lake. The scabbard pulled in Fuxing's hands as though trying to reunite with its blade. He maintained control instead of interfering between two monsters. The fisherman suddenly stopped fighting the sword. His head turned toward the forest behind the pier. A hidden presence had entered the mist during the disturbance. The intruder concealed breathing, footsteps, and ordinary killing intent. That technique might have escaped Fuxing under calmer conditions. The fisherman sensed it while wrestling a dragon sword and controlling an entire lake. His annoyance shifted toward genuine hostility. Anyone approaching secretly during a weapon's awakening invited immediate suspicion. The old man twisted the base of the bamboo fishing pole. A thin blade slid from inside the hollow shaft. Green sword and tint gathered along its edge before the metal fully appeared. The surrounding mist split into clean layers. Leaves stopped moving as pressure spread across the shore. Fuxing recognized a cultivation level, capable of threatening nearly anyone in Great Qin. The old fisherman struck once toward the shadowed trees. A massive wave of green sword energy crossed the pier. Wooden boards exploded beneath the force despite never being the intended target. The attack ripped through mist and raced directly toward the concealed observer. Shunyan's broken weapon had awakened as a black dragon sword. Its response to the scabbard proved that years of nourishment had not erased its bond. Fuxing had reached the correct place and forced the hidden blade into the open. Another unknown faction had arrived precisely when the weapon emerged. Every hidden power moved closer whenever one of his secrets surfaced. The marriage brought the Ye family, the demon sect, and competing princes into motion. The assassination drew the Wuyi division and Bai Hu toward his manor. The restaurant conflict opened a channel toward Shunjingyu. Now the dragon sword attracted an observer brave enough to approach Sword Lake secretly. His advantage came from anticipating pressure and deciding where that pressure would land. Sending Fuxing kept the prince away from an unfinished confrontation. Using the scabbard established ownership without revealing Shunyan's current cultivation. The fisherman became the first barrier against whoever waited inside the trees. Shunyan had used Sword Lake to repair something powerful enough to manifest a mythical form. Recovering it would strengthen his independence from imperial agents and family forces. Its awakening also confirmed that the prince's 5 missing years contained achievements nobody in Tianwu understood. Yelian had chosen to trust that hidden life before seeing its full scale. The noble gathering proved she could stand beside Shunyan socially. Sword Lake proved his preparations could support that promise through force. The original novel separated love, power, and destiny until each became a weapon against Yelian. Shunyan was bringing all 3 under his own control. The strongest confirmed payoff remained the Black Dragon becoming a sword again. Shunyan's weapon was awake, responsive, and still connected to him. The future Demoness was no longer protected by plans alone. A dragon-shaped force had begun returning toward the prince who rewrote her fate. Back in Tianwu, the visible consequences of Shunyan's choice had already spread beyond one marriage decree. Yelian entered the flower boat as a rumored omen and left with invitations from respected noble daughters. Her pale blue eyes no longer existed only inside frightening stories. People had seen intelligence, restraint, beauty, and courage behind them. That change weakened the demon sect's easiest weapon before another agent reached the capital. Destroying a reputation required isolation, but Yelian had begun forming connections beyond her family. General Ye Tian remained her strongest political shield among military veterans. Shunyan now stood beside that shield with royal status and personal loyalty. The young nobles on the Luo River added a different kind of protection. Their future gossip would describe Yelian as someone they had met, not a monster imagined through rumor. Gu Ruyi occupied a completely different position from the original story. She had met Shunyan and watched him choose Yelian without hesitation. The heroine received no rescue, romantic promise, or special opportunity from him. Shunyan also refused to punish her for events that had never happened. That restraint prevented knowledge of the future from becoming another form of blind cruelty. Shun Jingyu had also moved away from the path written for him. Instead of encountering Gu Ruyi first, he tested cooperation with his younger brother. The transfer of Ding Fu created shared business interests beneath their polite rivalry. Jingyu wanted freedom from the Xiao clan more than another romantic obsession. Shunyan understood that motive because both princes resisted futures chosen by powerful families. The failed manor raid confirmed that direct testing could produce nothing but dead agents. Shan Mukin would need patience, better information, or someone reckless enough to try again. His immediate marriage approval suggested knowledge hidden from the court and perhaps from Shunyan. His private question about succession raised the value of every later decision. The emperor had not named an heir, but he had started measuring whether his 6th son could carry the empire. Restaurants and trade houses gathered information across every class of the capital. Modern knowledge improved profit, but organization transformed profit into independence. Fuxing commanded shadows powerful enough to contest Great Qin's feared enforcers. Inzi proved that even a demon sect protector could disappear without creating a public battle. Baihu's White Tiger fan added imperial authority without forcing Shunyan inside the Wuyi division. None replaced the need for judgment when several problems arrived together. He chose the location, timing, signal, witnesses, and force that would destroy them. That strategy protected his secrets while making enemies reveal theirs. A few copper coins protected beggars more effectively than dangerous silver. One expensive comb gave Yelian more security than another speech about beauty. Free meals turned a restaurant scandal into stronger customer loyalty. A public introduction defeated rumors that private reassurance could never reach. Shunyan's advantage was not a visible system multiplying strength on command. It was complete knowledge of the original tragedy combined with power built during 5 missing years. Martial strength let him survive choices that intelligence alone could not support. Most importantly, Shunyan acted before pain forced Yelian toward darkness. The original story waited until she became dangerous and then treated death as the only solution. Shunyan attacked the causes while the future remained flexible. He gave Yelian commitment before jealousy. Protection arrived before the demon sect could reach her. Public dignity replaced the rumors hardening around her. Experience prepared her for kindness exploited by others. Friendships challenged the isolation that once defined her. Those choices did not erase the power inside her eyes. They changed the emotional direction guiding that power. A gift capable of becoming demonic could now develop beside trust rather than despair. That possibility made Yelian more valuable than the heroine Shunyan rejected. Gu Ruyi carried narrative destiny, but Yelian carried love, military connection, hidden inheritance, and growing confidence. Shunyan never chose her because power calculations came first. He chose her because the person behind the feared eyes had always chosen him. The resulting alliance simply became stronger than the romance the novel expected. At Sword Lake, the Black Dragon proved Shunyan's preparation reached even deeper. Years beneath sacred water had transformed a broken weapon into a spirit capable of terrifying the shore. Its loyalty reflected the same principle now reshaping every relationship around him. Shunyan earned devotion through earlier choices, then returned when that devotion mattered. Yelian waited because he had once treated her eyes as beautiful. Fuxing obeyed because the prince had built his hidden organization around discarded lives. Mindu and Changhai accepted danger because their household rewarded loyalty instead of consuming it. Baihu remained protective because Shunyan's mother had entrusted him to her. General Ye Tian supported the marriage because Shunyan kept a childhood promise. Even Jingyu approached because the sixth prince offered an escape from inherited control. Strength therefore gathered around Shunyan through bonds the original novel underestimated. The title of Prince of Chu gave him authority. Loyalty multiplied the effect of every advantage. The difference appeared through outcomes nobody else could reproduce. One court request changed Yelian's position inside the empire. One distant order removed the man assigned to corrupt her. One false weakness destroyed an assassination squad through imperial hands. One market walk reversed the destined meeting with Gu Ruyi. One restaurant scandal produced profit and a royal connection. One social gathering gave Yelian friends and public legitimacy. One empty scabbard awakened a black dragon sword beneath sacred water. Each victory created consequences instead of disappearing as temporary hype. The demon sect now knew a senior protector had been killed. Rival princes knew Shunyan could not be measured through visible guards. The Wuyi division knew his household contained carefully hidden layers. The Shao clan would eventually notice Jingyu moving beyond its preferred cage. An unknown observer had already approached Sword Lake during the weapon's awakening. None of those pressures erased what had been achieved. Yelian was engaged, protected, socially visible, and emotionally certain. Her grandfather no longer feared she would face the future alone. Shunyan no longer followed a role that ended with her blood on his sword. The weapon that killed her in the original tragedy had taken the form of a dragon under his command. That contrast carried the clearest proof that destiny had changed direction. The first ending made Shunyan executioner and Yelian victim. The new path made him protector while allowing her to become more than either label. He still respected the danger inside her inheritance. Protection did not mean pretending demonic cultivation, political hatred, or future war had vanished. It meant preparing enough strength that fear never forced betrayal. Shunyan had already demonstrated that preparation through commerce, martial allies, imperial leverage, and precise intervention. Yelian had demonstrated her own growth, by removing the veil before strangers. Her courage prevented the relationship from becoming one prince rescuing a helpless woman. They were beginning to change each other. Shunyan gave Yelian a world larger than the Yi estate. Yelian gave Shunyan a reason larger than wealth, escape, or succession. That personal stake connected every hidden resource to a human purpose. The approaching autumn could bring barbarians, sect agents, and court conflict. Great Qin's future could still demand choices no novel had prepared him to make. Yet the central promise had already been fulfilled. Shunyan saw the heroine and walked past destiny. He chose the woman history had prepared to condemn. Those pale blue eyes received protection instead of fear. Inzi destroyed the elder assigned to weaponize her grief. The capital witnessed Yelian standing openly without shame. A black dragon sword supplied the force needed to defend that choice. Yelian no longer stood at the beginning of a villain's descent. She stood beside a prince who understood exactly how that descent had once been created. Shunyan no longer waited for the story to decide whom he loved or killed. He used memory without becoming its prisoner. The Hall of Supreme Harmony had treated his request like reckless madness. Every event afterward proved the request was his most intelligent move. Rejecting Gu Ruyi cost him nothing he truly valued. Choosing Yelian gained trust, purpose, alliances, and a future worth becoming stronger for. The feared Demoness remained gentle because someone finally protected her before demanding that she prove her goodness. The underestimated prince became more dangerous because every hidden power now served one clear decision. Shunyan would not repeat the scene where his sword ended Yelian's life. The awakened black dragon would defend the future their marriage had created. His greatest victory was not escaping the novel's plot. It was giving Yelian the life that plot had stolen before she ever became its villain. The prince rejected destiny's heroine, chose the future Demoness, and turned their doomed ending into a united path of power.